podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Two-Footed Podcast here on EPL Index. Now, before we kick things off today, I just want to share something with everybody. This episode is brought to you by our partners at Sky Bet, and we've teamed up with Sky Bet because they truly understand what it means to be a fan. Sky Bet appreciates the length that people go through to support their team in all areas, whether you're a match-going fan or otherwise, and there's just no better fit for us right now than a partnership with the good folks at Sky Bet. So with that said, let's go. What's good, boys and girls? Two-Footed Podcast. Today is Friday. It is the 17th of May. Hope you're all well and having yourself a pleasant day. We had a big game in the Championship last night. Second leg of the playoff semi-final. Leeds United 4, Norwich City 0. So Leeds move on to the final. Ilya Gruev with a clever free kick on 7 minutes. If you remember the Gary McAllister free kick against Everton for Liverpool years ago. Was it against Everton? It might have been against... I think it was against Everton. I think it's happened a couple of times. I think Fabio Aurelio actually did it as well against Manchester United in another game. But it was basically that. He shaped to cross it. Keeper kind of cheated across a bit. And then he very subtly put it near post. And Leeds were off to the races. On 20 minutes, Joel Perrault made it 2. Lovely cross by Wilfred Gnonto. Perrault makes a great run, gets to it first, heads it across goal. Keeper has come for the flight of the ball and is never getting close. On 40 minutes, it was basically game over. Jorginho Rutter, good build-up down the left involving Perrault and then Somerville. Somerville seemed to fall over his own feet. The ball got poked away and Rutter lashed home from about 10 yards out. But on 68 minutes, Somerville, not to be denied his goal, wraps things up. Good move again. Gnonto with the shot, saved by the keeper. Firpo follows up, very clever, cuts back, and Somerville taps home. Leeds dominant, Norwich didn't turn up, and Leeds move on. And there was reports today, I don't know if they've been confirmed yet, that David Wagner, yes, he has indeed. He has been sacked by Norwich City. And Norwich will start next season looking for a return to the Premier League under a new manager. They've got quite a bit of work to do. There's talent in the squad, but that squad is not ready to return. It's not ready to return to the Premier League. And this is a big summer coming up for them. There's a lot of talent there, but they've definitely got work to do. I think there's a couple of players they've had out on loan this year that they would be well advised to bring back and actually play. Like Christian Solis, I don't understand why he's been out on loan the last 2 seasons. Maybe it's a wage thing. Adam Ida, not sure why he was sent on loan to Celtic in January. Norwich could definitely do with having him. They've got good players, but there's a lot of work needed to add to that. And I'll be really interested to see who the next manager is. Liam Rossinier, maybe. Rossinier. I'd imagine his name comes up. Norwich have sort of looked abroad in recent years for managers. So maybe they do that again. Daniel Farke had great success there. David Wagner, not so much. Dean Smith in the interim was a disaster. will be interesting to see who they look at and where they go, because there's a couple of players there as well that might not really want another season in the Championship. You know, like you look at a player like Gabriel Sara, he's definitely capable of playing at a much higher level. You look at someone like Marcelinho Nunes, he's definitely capable of playing at a higher level. They might not be willing to drop back into the Championship and stay there another year. They might want that Premier League move. So Leeds move on, and they will face the winner of tonight's game between Southampton and West Brom. That's an 8 p.m. kickoff. Obviously 0-0 in the first leg there as well. Southampton, they're strong favourites, surely, to win this tonight. They're undeniably the better team across the course of the season. For a long time, it looked like they were going to get automatic promotion. They were trending in that direction. They went on an unbeaten run, which began with a win on the 30th of December and ended with a loss on the 13th of February. Significant run there, 23 games unbeaten, 22 games unbeaten, I think it was. But then 3 defeats in 4, back-to-back wins, winless for 3 games, win 3, lose 3 in a row. You know, very up and down kind of season for them in terms of consistency. A season is the wrong way to phrase that. Very inconsistent end to the season from that mid-February defeat to Bristol City. They lost 7 games between then and the end of the season. They'd only lost 4 prior to that, and all 4 of them came together in February or in September. They had a disastrous September, hammered away at Sunderland, hammered at home by Leicester, lost at home to Ipswich, lost away to Middlesbrough, and then they went on that long unbeaten run, but just couldn't sustain it towards the end. West Brom, I think the manager's really good. I think Corberan is really good. I'd be surprised if he's not getting offers this summer if they don't come up. They had a more typical Championship season where it's, you know, a lot more defeats. They lost 13 games in the league this year. They lost intermittently rather than in chunks the way Southampton did. They did end the season with 3 defeats before winning on the final day. They almost slipped out of the playoffs. It felt like they got a little bit too comfortable and thought they were just going to breeze in. But here they are with a huge opportunity. They'll know that these opportunities are hard come by. It hasn't been all that plain sailing for West Brom. They were 9th last season. Steve Bruce was obviously there at the start of the year. He got sacked. Corberan came in. He did turn them around. But 9th last year, 10th the year before. This is their first crack at getting back to the Premier League since they were relegated at the end of the 2021 season under Sam Allardyce, the relegation avoidance specialist who just wasn't. There's a lot of talent in this West Brom squad. They've got a very good academy that always produces players. But again, it's a squad that if they don't come up, they've probably got some work to do. They're very strong in midfield. That's the one area I think they've got an advantage over probably both Southampton tonight and Leeds in a potential final. But that academy just does churn out some good players. I quite like what I've seen of Tom Fellows. Harry Whitwell looks good. Fendon Hurd looks good. There's just always a couple of decent players coming through. I'd like to have seen them make more use of Karlan Grant over the last couple of years, but that hasn't worked out. But, you know, they've got threats up front. Dianjana coming off a wing is a good player. Thomas Asante is a good player. Do like John Swift from midfield. Daryl Dike, I think, is really good, but he just can't stay fit. And they've got Josh Maja there, but he hasn't really done the business for them. I do like Jason Malumbi, the young Irish midfielder. I think he's a good player, came through at Brighton. And obviously Jan Villa is there just for the vibes, just for the 2013 vibes. I think given the game is at St. Mary's tonight, you'd have to pick Southampton to win and set up a final against Leeds. And I actually don't know who I'd pick in that final. I actually don't know who I'd pick at all. So that is tonight. Tomorrow, we have a playoff final between Bolton and Oxford. That's the League One playoff final. So Bolton finished third in League One. Oxford finished fifth. Bolton got past Barnsley. Oxford got past Peterborough. Bolton, I think, will be strong favourites to win this game. They were right in the mix for automatic promotion up until the last few weeks of the season. They just sort of ran out of steam. But I would fancy them to win this game. When the sides met in November in Oxford, they drew 0-0. And when they met in March in Bolton at what I'm always going to call the Reebok Stadium, but is now known as the Tough Sheet Community Stadium, Bolton hammered them. They beat them 5-0. Now, I wouldn't expect a repeat of that, but I do expect Bolton to get promoted. And it's great because that club has been through horrors over the last couple of years. So it would be great to see them get themselves back into the Championship and continue to rebuild. In League Two, then, we have the League Two final on Sunday. That is Crewe versus Crawley. So Crewe finished sixth in the league. Crawley finished seventh. Crewe overcame Doncaster. A 2-0 deficit from the first leg, overcame that to win the second leg on penalties. And Crawley just demolished MK Dons. And I thought MK Dons would be a pretty strong favourite to get through from these playoffs. They've been comfortably the best team all year. But credit to Crawley. Just to beat them 3-0 at home is one thing. To go to their place and beat them 5-1 is another situation altogether. Great performances and huge credit to all the players and the manager. Now, Crewe will be a tough game. And I don't know how to pick this one. Like, these sides finished 1 point apart in League Two. Crawley did win 2 more games, but Crewe were much harder to beat. Then he lost 13 games. Now, only lost 13 games. Crawley lost 18. Neither side are particularly strong defensively. Crewe conceded 65. Crawley conceded 67. Crawley did have the better attack, 73 to 69. But it's a hard one to pick. In their league meetings this year, when they met in Crawley, Crewe won 4-2 at the Broadfield. And then when they met in Crewe at the Mornflake Stadium, which is Gresty Road to those of us old enough to remember, Crewe won 1-0. So Crewe have beaten them twice. Does that mean anything? No. No, doesn't mean much at all. Like, those 2 games, when they played at the Broadfield, the crowd, the attendance was 3,028. That stadium holds just over 6,000, so it was half full. When they met then at Gresty Road, the attendance was 4,189. That stadium holds over 10,000. So these were not games that brought out big crowds, but Wembley will bring out a crowd. How big it is, I don't know. It certainly won't be full, but you might get 30,000 there. You might. A lot of people will just go for the day out. There'll be loads of tickets available. If you're in London on Sunday and looking for something to do, you'll probably be able to walk up and buy your way in. if you're living in London, actually, it'd be a really good way to spend your weekend is go Saturday for the Bolton game against Oxford. So Bolton will bring a big crowd. And then go Sunday again. If you've nothing else to be at, why wouldn't you? What else are you going to do? Watch the Premier League? Don't be so silly. So those games are taking place this weekend. The Saturday game is a 4:15 kickoff, and the Sunday game is a 1 p.m. kickoff. So it is on before the Premier League games. And that is us caught up with the Sky Bet English Football League. We'll be back after the break. I say we. I'll be back after the break. Then there'll be another break, and then it's Guy, so that will be a we. See you in a sec. Right, welcome back. So let's go around Europe and see where we stand with the final days, or close to final days, for the main European leagues. So in Italy, they actually have 2 match weeks left. Now, that league title has been decided. It will be Inter Milan winning the title. But there's still stuff to be decided. So you've got Milan will finish second. Bologna are currently third, Juve fourth, and Atalanta fifth. Bologna and Juve are certain of Champions League for next year. Atalanta, not yet, but they're in really good form, and they have a game in hand on Roma. So in all likelihood, they will get in. This weekend, we have Fiorentina-Napoli is tonight, Lecce-Atalanta, Torino-Milan, Sassuolo-Cagliari, Udinese-Empoli, Monza-Frosinone, Inter-Lazio, Roma-Genoa, Salernitana-Verona, and Bologna-Juve should be a good one. That's Monday. Friday through Monday, lots of good football taking place in Serie A. In France, then, in the Uber Eats League, PSG have obviously won the title. This is the final weekend. Monaco will finish second. Lille and Brest in the mix for third. This weekend, we have Reims against Rennes, Le Havre versus Marseille. All these games are Sunday at 8 p.m. Lens versus Montpellier, Toulouse versus Brest, Metz PSG, Lille home to Nice. That's tough. Monaco Nantes, Lyon Strasbourg, and Lorient against Clermont Foot. Metz have done enough to avoid automatic relegation, but they will not be able to get out of the relegation playoffs. They're going to have to go through that. So maybe they'll rest everybody tonight or Sunday night anyway. In La Liga, there are also 2 games left. So this weekend, it's Alaves Getafe, that's tonight. And then all the rest are Sunday at 6 p.m. Barcelona Rayo Vallecano, Granada Celta Vigo, Valencia Girona, Atleti versus Osasuna, Cadiz versus Las Palmas, Real Betis versus Real Sociedad should be good. Mallorca versus Almeria, Villarreal versus Real Madrid, and Athletic Club against Sevilla. Real have won the title. The Champions League spots are decided. Barcelona, Girona, and Atleti will be in the Champions League next season. Atleti can still jump Girona. They're 2 points behind. They play Osasuna and then away to Real Sociedad, while Girona play away to Valencia and then home to Granada. You would expect Girona wins at least one of them, and that should be enough to make sure they finish third. And I believe that would make this the first season then that Diego Simeone didn't finish in the top 3, which would bring to an end quite an impressive run for him. In the Bundesliga, obviously, Bayer Leverkusen have that all wrapped up. It is the final weekend. Leverkusen are in, Stuttgart are in, Leipzig are in, and Dortmund are in. 5 Champions League spots for the Bundesliga. Eintracht Frankfurt will get the Europa League spot. And it's between Hoffenheim and Freiburg for the Conference League. At the bottom, Mainz have dragged their way out of the relegation playoff, in large part because Union Berlin have launched themselves head first into it. And going into the final day, Union Berlin could still go down automatically. They're 3 points ahead of Cologne. They've only got a 3-goal advantage. All of these games are 2:30 kickoffs tomorrow. Union versus Freiburg. That's tough. Freiburg need the win. Hoffenheim versus Bayern. Mainz away to Wolfsburg. That's a difficult game, but they've probably already done enough to avoid the relegation playoff. Leverkusen against Augsburg. Eintracht against Leipzig. Dortmund against Darmstadt. I would be shocked if they play any of their starters, given there's a Champions League final on the horizon. Stuttgart against Gladbach, Werder versus Bochum, and Heidenheim versus Cologne. Some decent games there, to be fair. Eintracht Leipzig should be fun, although given Leipzig don't need anything from the game, it might not be all that competitive. I wanted to check in, of course, on our hero and comrade, Big Dunk. So they're playing in the relegation playoff, obviously. So they managed to get by Montrose in their semi-final, a 0-0 draw away, and then a 1-0 win at home, put them into a final against Hamilton Academical. They lost the first leg 2-1 away. I've no idea if there's aggregate. Let's see. I have no idea if there's aggregate, so I don't know if they need a 1-0 win to win, or if they need a 1-0 win to force extra time and potentially penalties. Wouldn't be great for Big Dunk now to get another relegation on the CV. There is aggregate. No, there's always aggregate. What am I saying? I don't know if there's away goals. There is aggregate. I'm an idiot. Hamilton beat Alloa 2-2 in the first leg, beat them 3-2 in the second leg. Yeah. Hamilton looking to get promoted. Inverness looking to avoid relegation. What a concept. I genuinely think this is a brilliant concept. I'd be introducing this into different leagues. This is tremendous stuff. I'm definitely going to watch that game. That's Sunday. What time is that game on at? 5:30. No, Saturday. 5:30 Saturday. Inverness against Hamilton. At Inverness. Big Dunk. Doing Big Dunk things. Potentially for the last time. Because you'd have to imagine, if they get relegated and he gets sacked, no one else is going to give him a job, surely. To update on our Big Dunk managerial record, played 59, won 15, 18 draws and 26 defeats, a 0.42 win rate. At Inverness, it's 13 wins, 12 draws, 11 defeats, 36.11 win rate. To be fair to him, he's won more than he's lost, but he's not won a lot more than he has won. He isn't a good manager. He just isn't. But fair play to him. He's out there doing it anyway. We will bring you that result on Monday. Let's do the news then. Arteta, Arsenal title dream still alive. Right. Arne Slot has confirmed he will become Liverpool manager. Everybody has known that for a month now. Thomas Tuchel has decided to leave Bayern Munich. So they were in talks about him maybe staying, and he's decided that's not for him. He's decided to move on. Brazil has been named as the host for the 2027 Women's World Cup. Barcelona are apparently considering sacking Xavi and replacing him with Rafa Marquez This is quite hilarious because he announced earlier in the season he would leave. They begged him to stay, and now they're looking at sacking him. Tremendous stuff. Absolutely tremendous stuff. Departing Liverpool boss Klopp would scrap VAR. That's not what he said. That's not what he said. He said that the VAR system works. What he said was the officials are not able to use the technology properly. So he said he would like to get rid of it because these people are not able to use it properly. So let's be clear on what he actually said here. Liverpool have announced that both Joel Matip and Thiago Alcantara will leave the club this summer. No surprise. No surprise for either of them. Manchester United have handed women's manager Mark Skinner a contract extension after they won the FA Cup. Police in Australia have charged 3 players from the A-League on suspicion of betting corruption after allegedly manipulating yellow cards. So that's one to follow. That's interesting. Robin van Persie has been named head coach of Heerenveen. There was some talk he might get the Feyenoord job, but it looks like that will potentially now go to Nuri Sahin. Van Persie will get his first crack at being a manager, and we'll see how he does. He wouldn't have been someone as a player I would have initially thought would go into management, but as he got older and matured, he seemed to become a lot calmer in a lot of ways. On to the gossip then. Napoli are interested in Mason Greenwood. I doubt it. Atletico Madrid are also keen on Greenwood. I doubt it. United are interested in signing Lenny Yoro. I wouldn't believe that source, but I would believe he's come up on the radar. Chelsea, along with Paris Saint-Germain, see the signing of Victor Osimhen as a priority this summer. Okay. Real Madrid have cooled their interest on Alphonso Davies, whose contract runs out in 2025. Have they cooled their interest, or have they just said to him, look, we want to sign you next summer, so just go and stay at Bayern for a year and we'll bring you in for free because we've got other things to do this summer. Napoli are looking at Atletico Madrid forward Samu, who has been on loan at Alaves this season, as a possible replacement for Victor Osimhen. He's quite highly regarded, that kid. 8 goals, not a great return. Had a really good season last year with Recreativo. 18 goals in the 3rd division, I want to say. 4th division. Oh. Yeah, he's big, he's strong, he's quick. I don't know that he's ready to go to Napoli, but certainly talented. Certainly talented. He was at Granada, I think, originally. Maybe it was Granada's, Recreativo Granada. Maybe that's who he was with before he went to Atleti. Chelsea manager Maurizio Pochettino has the support of prominent figures at the club prior to an end-of-season review that will determine his future. Conor Gallagher is not interested in moving to Newcastle, who are long-standing admirers of his. Real Madrid are set to offer Espanyol €1.5 million to keep Joselu on loan before deciding whether to sign him permanently this summer. Okay, that's strange. Aston Villa's 31-year-old Brazilian midfielder Felipe Coutinho, who is currently on loan at Al Duhal in Qatar, could return to his former club Vasco da Gama on loan with an obligation to buy. Now, at the moment, he can't go there because they can't do anything because there's a whole mess over their ownership situation. So that's one to keep an eye on. Juventus are considering sacking Max Allegri despite lifting their first trophy in 3 years. They won the Coppa Italia. That doesn't count for them. Juve have offered Thiago Motta a 3-year deal to replace Allegri as their new manager. I'd love to see him stay with Bologna for one more year. Sheffield United are planning a move for Joe Worrell. That makes sense. That does make sense to me. Worrell has struggled at the Premier League level, unfortunately. He's a player I like, but he has struggled at the Premier League level. He's been on loan with Besiktas for the last 6 months or so. I don't actually have no idea how he's done, but, fair play to him for being brave enough to go and play abroad. But I think Sheffield United probably makes a bit more sense. Sunderland will demand a fee of 12 million for Job Bellingham, who is of interest to Borussia Dortmund. Is he, though? Is he really? Or is that just Football Insider making things up? Most likely it's Football Insider making things up. Right, folks, that will do for this part. I will be back after the break when I will be joined by Guy. So we will see you later. Right, welcome back. So, joined for the final time this season on a Friday by Mr. Guy Drinkle. How are you, sir?
Just kind of glad it's over. It's been a weird season.
It has been an odd season, hasn't it? Like, we had a title race with 3 teams in it for a while, and then it was 2, and it became quite obvious that Man City were just going to roll over everybody and win the league. It was quite clear early on that Sheffield United and Burnley were going down, and then it was, just a matter of who would go with them. The only reason it's even close at the bottom right now is because Forest had points taken off them. Realistically, Luton are gone. They can go out and win their game by a bundle this weekend, and Forest could lose by a bundle, and Luton would still go down. Like, there's a 12-goal swing needed there. There's not a whole lot really at stake for anybody, bar the potential for Chelsea to nick 5th, which I doubt happens. Newcastle could jump Chelsea and get back into 6th. Or Manchester United could jump Newcastle and take 7th. Aside from that, and let's be honest, whether you're in the Europa League or the Europa Conference League, you're not in the Champions League, so it doesn't really matter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then United could win the FA Cup and just make it all pointless anyway.
Yeah, that's the thing. United could very well win the FA Cup. If they don't, that will add another Europa League spot, so it'll be Tottenham, and as things stand, Chelsea getting Europa League, and then Newcastle would get Conference League as things currently stand. But United and Newcastle are level on points. The Toon have a much better goal difference, though. Toon have a better goal difference than Chelsea as well, but Chelsea are 3 points ahead, and Chelsea are in good form. So let's go through these games quickly as we can. There's only really a couple that matter.
Yes, there is. And I just spotted Man United's goal difference, which we will discuss once we get to them. Deary me. We'll start, and this is going alphabetically because they're all at the same time, 4 o'clock UK time on the Sunday. Arsenal hosting Everton, Dave. This is on TNT for UK people. Everton have nothing to play for. They got safe probably earlier than expected. I think 40 points. It's been a horrid season for them in many ways, but it's ended up being a pretty good season because 47 points there would have been on, if I'm getting that right. There would have been 12. It's been a weird, but it would have been a good season for Everton, bar that. But Arsenal probably will win this game, bar any last game nerves, but they'll win this ultimately. You might even end up like the Liverpool games against Wolves in the past, where it may take longer than expected, but ultimately they'll win. But City will win as well, because that's what they do.
Yeah, I mean, you could see Everton scoring first and then Arsenal beating them 4-1 or something, do you know? Unless Sean Dyche pulls an absolute madness out of the bag with the nastiest 4-4-2 deep block that the Premier League has seen since Tony Pulis was in his pomp, and just all the old issues that Arsenal had.
Just load Ashley Barnes for one day to just play up front of his own.
Just throw Beto and Calvert-Lewin up front together if they're both fit. Speaking of fitness, what are we looking for injury-wise? Everton, no Patterson, no Ali, no Michaelenko, no Harrison, and Andre Gomes is a doubt. For Arsenal, Bukayo Saka should be fine. Jurrien Timber, I reckon he might make the bench here. And I think he might come on to play to, finish off what's been a disappointing season for him personally, given the ACL tear. Form, last 10 games, Arsenal second, Everton sixth, which is impressive. Home form, Arsenal third. Away form, Everton 18th. So a draw might be about as good as Everton could hope for, but I think everybody just expects Arsenal to win comfortably. So I'll go 3-0 Arsenal.
Yep, I'd probably agree with that. Next, we have Brentford hosting Newcastle. Brentford, probably one of the most disappointing sides because they haven't had a points difference. I know they're on 39 points and Tony and AFCON and injuries, yada, yada, yada. But it feels like a backward step, whereas the previous seasons in the Premier League feels like they've been taking gradual steps forward. And obviously there is excuses for that. Newcastle, definitely a backward step, but again, so many injuries. But if they do end up in the Conference League, I feel like that'd be a good competition for them to be in, because as we've seen with their campaign in the Champions League, you do need to make steps in European football. It's very much different. So I don't think that'd be the worst thing if they do end up in that position.
Yeah, and you need to go and establish yourself in Europe. And they would certainly go into it as one of the favourites to win it. So, that could be a path to silverware. And it's been an awful long time since Newcastle won anything. And for me, if I was involved in the planning at Newcastle for next season, I would be saying, look, let's really target the Conference League, the League Cup, and the FA Cup. And let's try and win one of those, even if it means another season where we don't reach the Champions League. I think they need to establish a culture of winning trophies there. So the Conference League could absolutely be beneficial to them. This isn't an easy game. Though, as you mentioned, Brentford have been very disappointing this year. But, like you said, injuries and the Tony situation, maybe it was predictable. And ultimately, they're surviving very, very comfortably. It's not like they're in a relegation scrap, and haven't been for the last few weeks. 3 wins out of 5 for them. In the last 10 games, Brentford are 9th. Newcastle are 5th. Home form, Brentford are only 14th, actually. Only 1 win in their last 6 at home with 4 draws. Away form, Newcastle are 11th, 2 wins, 4 draws. Injury-wise, Brentford, no De Silva, no Henry, no Hickey, no Me. Unlikely to have Collins. Onyeka should be okay, and Mope should be fine. His wife had a child recently, so congratulations to them. I believe it's their second. So, but he should be back to play unless they give him the weekend off because it's a meaningless game for them. The Toon, no Botman, no Lascelles, no Tonali, no Willock, no Livramento, no Miley, no Target. Callum Wilson and Anthony Gordon are both a doubt. I think Newcastle go there and get the job done. I think Newcastle will want to end the season with a win. They'll want to ensure a place in Europe. And if they win, they're guaranteed a spot. Well, not guaranteed, because if United win the FA Cup, then United would actually take a spot and Newcastle wouldn't get one. Chelsea would end up in the Conference League in 6th. But I think we all assume City will beat them quite comfortably in the FA Cup final. So I'm going to pick Newcastle to win here and end up in the Conference League. I'll go 2-1.
Mm-hmm. Just check there. 20 points worse off Brentford this season.
Yeah.
Bad
season.
I mean,
look, they lost Ivan Toney for half the year. They've had both starting fullbacks gone for... Well, Henry got hurt very early in the season. Hickey got hurt early enough. They've had a lot of injuries at centre-back. Pinnock missed time. Jorgensen missed time. Collins missed time. Mee has missed time. So that's been tough for them. And obviously, I think Mopé missed a couple of months and Wissa was out for a little while. He was definitely at AFCON. So, it's been a tough season.
Yeah.
It has been a tough season. And I think Thomas Frank deserves credit for the fact that, they entered May safe.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. And then it's an easy upgrade to next season as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Brighton against Man United next, one that has kind of something to potentially to play on for. I mean, United, it's just, I mentioned the goal difference. -3 goal difference for Man United. How?
It's a fairly special achievement, if we're being honest here. And, you look at the European Cup as well. They finished with a -3 goal difference, and that's -6 on the season. Won a game 3-0 and lost a game 3-0 in the EFL Cup. And then it is the FA Cup that's pushing them back towards the positive. They're +6 in the FA Cup. So their goal difference across all competitions this season, in what is now 45 and 50 games, is 0 in 50 games. That is absolutely shocking for that club.
Even last year getting top 4, it was 15.
Yeah.
It's terrible.
Yeah. It's not good. It's not good. Ten Hag doesn't coach a team well defensively. I think we've seen that. Part of that is he has a fascination with playing small people at centre-back, and you need big lumps of lads at centre-back in the Premier League. Like you said, 15 last season. The year before, which is the messy season that was Ollie and then Ranić, it was 0. The season before that, under Ollie, it was +29, which is, normal. Before that, it was +30. They finished 3rd that year. Before that, +11. Like, United have had a lot of bad seasons, but this is horrible for them. It's great for all of us that grew up watching them dominate English football. But, you look at 13 defeats in the league. Sorry, 14 defeats in the league. Could easily lose this game and could easily lose the final. So that would be 16 plus the League Cup is 17, and they lost 4 in the Champions League. That would be 21 defeats this year in 52 games, which is a staggering amount. And, of course, if they were to lose these 2 games, it would also mean they end the season with a negative goal differential across all competitions. It's a really bad season. Now, there is mitigating circumstances with the injuries, but everybody has injuries. Have they had more than most? Yes, but not more than everybody. For this weekend, no Malacia, no Martial, no Shaw, no Mount. Lindelof and Varane are major doubts. And Maguire is also out this weekend, but expected back maybe for the FA Cup final. For Brighton, they've had a disappointing season in the league as well by the standards they set last year. But overall, it's still a pretty good season for Brighton and Hove Albion if they finish in the top half. It's only the 3rd time ever that'll have happened. So, no Solly March, no Estupinan, no Milner, no Ferguson, no Hinchelwood, no Matoma, no Van Hecke, no Dunk, and no Veltman. That's a lot of injuries. An awful lot of injuries. Last 10 games, Man United are 10th, Brighton are 17th. Home form, last 6, Brighton are 15th, 2 wins and a draw. Away form, United are 13th, 1 win, 2 draws. Doesn't bode well for Manchester United heading into this one, that their away form is poor. They've got injuries. They've got certain players they're going to try and need to nurse so that they're available for the final. So I'm going to back Brighton to win this one. A Brighton win obviously guarantees them a top half finish, which I think they would like, just as, as another kind of marker for themselves. Obviously a big drop off from last season's 6th place finish, The season before that, they'd finished ninth under Graham Potter. But they finished ninth with 51 points and a -2 goal difference. This season, if they win this game, they'll have 51 points. And at the moment, they've got a -5 goal difference. So if they won 3-0, it would pretty much match that season under Potter, except they also had a European campaign for the first time, which does have to be factored in. They've had an incredible amount of injuries this year as well. Like I think they had their left side, which was a Stupin and a Matoma last year. I think they played like 7 games together or something like that. That left side was incredible last year. The right side, Veltman and March, I think played twice together because Solly got injured real early in the season. And it was really good for them last year. And then we remember that they lost the 2 central midfielders that were so vital and Levi Colwill. And you can see why they've had a drop-off this year. But I am going to back them to win this game, but I'll go 2-1.
Yeah, last note on that game. United need to win to avoid it being their joint or, simply put, worst season ever points-wise. They're 1 point behind the Ragnick season, half season. So could be their worst season ever, technically.
In terms of Premier League terms, yeah. Yeah. Which is so funny when we think back to like the 13-14 Premier League season when David Moyes had taken over and how disastrous that seemed to go for them. But that year, they got 64 points. They only lost 12 league games and they finished with a goal difference of +21. And that was seen as an absolute catastrophe for them. And here we are a decade later, staring at a potential 15. Do you know what I mean? It's just, and all that money that's been spent. It's insane what's happened there. Absolutely insane, the fall off.
That's definitely a summer pod. Where are we? Burnley hosting Forest. I mean, bar the wildest 2 games of football you've ever seen, this doesn't mean too much. But Forest, I mean, they must be the most disappointed. Burnley possibly, because I think there was a lot of expectation of them coming into the league. But Forest to 29 points, I know point deduction and all that, but they'd still be 17th. They'd still be just about scraping from relegation. They've been awful when you think scrap by last year, invest again, and then buy some players. I think everyone would be like, yeah, I could see that. But to be this bad again, and if it wasn't for an all-time awful set of lads getting promoted, they probably would have went down, and probably deservedly should be down.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Just very, very fortunate that the 3 teams that came up were so bad. Otherwise, they would be going down. And it's one of those things. And like you said, there's going to be. I'm actually going to do a summer pod on each Premier League team this year. I don't know if I'll get anybody on. I might just ramble by myself because that's what I like to do. But when you look at what they went out and did in the summer, they bring in, I think, some really good players. Signed. Like the Chris Wood deal, he had a really good run of form, but I still think they'd regret it. Ola Aina, good signing. Anthony Elanga, good signing. Matt Turner, not so much. Murillo, great signing. But again, see, they did that Nottingham Forest thing where they did a couple of deals in the summer, and then in the last 24 hours of the window, they bring in Murillo, Dominguez, Hudson-Odoi, Vlachodimos, Sangaré, and Oma Bamadeli. And also loan in Nuno Tavares and Divock Origi. Like, the season had started and you're lumping a whole load of new players in.
I'd say only Hudson-Odoi was a factor. Like,
Murillo's been great.
Oh, well, the last group.
Oh, the last day, yeah. Hudson-Odoi's been good. Oma Bamadeli had a really good run next to Murillo. Sangare's been one of the most disappointing players of the season.
He just disappeared.
I'm not sure what's gone on there. I'm not sure if he's had a falling out with Nuno or what happened, but it's really weird. He should be starting for them. Like him and Danilo should be your double pivot with Gibbs White ahead of them. And then you go Alanga on a wing, Hudson-Odoi on a wing, and all of a sudden you've got a really good, balanced five-man group. And then you've got the likes of Dominguez and Ryan Yates and that you can bring into the team and, freshen it up when you need to. But they've made some bizarre decisions, absolutely bizarre decisions. Obviously sacked Steve Cooper back in December, appointed Nuno. I would imagine there's going to be conversations had internally about him this summer.
Yeah, I was going to ask. Yeah.
Like 25 games, 6 wins, 7 draws. That's not ideal.
There's a lot of managers out there, you'd think.
Yeah.
Graham Potter, even like David Moyes, if you do want to establish yourself as a Premier League side.
And the thing is, you look at that thing, one of those wins was in the FA Cup. 3 of the draws were in the FA Cup. So it's actually 5 wins, 4 draws, and 11 defeats in the Premier League. That's not good enough. That's not good enough. That can't be good enough to keep you in that job. I think they're going to look to make a change this summer. I really do. And I think they're right to as well. I think he's done a poor job. There's a lot of good players in that Forest squad. It can't be this hard. You look at them and there's just no way they should be where they are. There's just no way. They've got so much attacking talent. Gibbs White is an outstanding footballer. Absolutely outstanding. Him and Danilo alone, they walk into a lot of top Premier League teams. Those two alone are good enough for that midfield to compete with anybody. But I just think some bad decisions have been made. I think the manager's just not. I just don't think he's up to it. I think it would help if Awoniyi could just stay fit.
Yeah.
For a season. I do think that's a big factor as well, that he's missed chunks of both seasons through injury. And obviously AFCON this year as well. But they just need to be better next season. They just need to be better. Burnley, it's a shame because they came up playing good football, and I always admire a team that has principles to how they play. But unfortunately, they didn't address the defensive needs that they had, where they needed someone to come in and be that leader. They've got a lot of good players. If they can keep that squad together, I think they'll come back up fairly easily. Now, there's a couple there they don't own, like Esteve, they don't own, but maybe they can keep him. Maybe the owner's back company again. This weekend, no Ramsey, no Bayer, no Redmond, no Aldakiel, and no Kolioshu for Burnley. For Nottingham Forest, only the one absentee, that is Nico Williams. Last 10 games, Forest are 15th. Burnley are actually 12th. Home form, Burnley are 19th, though, 1 win, 2 draws. Away form, Forest 15th again, 1 win and a draw. I'm just going to back the draw here because the draw suits Forest. It guarantees they stay up.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll go 2-2.
Yeah, I can certainly see something like that. One of the games that actually has something playing on it, maybe for both teams, because I'm guessing Bournemouth would like to finish in the top half. But Chelsea, I mean, if they finish 5th, Dave, getting to 5th has been a horrendous journey. But if they do finish 5th, it's not a good season, but is it a you can see what they're doing type of season?
I think it's Pochettino finally being able to make an imprint is what it is. We know Pochettino's a good manager. He's not a great manager, but he is a good manager. And if you look at their league form, they were really poor prior to Christmas. You go back and look, they never won more than 2 games in a row, and that only happened once. The teams they beat pre-Christmas: Luton, Fulham, Burnley, 9-man Spurs, Brighton, and Sheffield United. They lost to West Ham, Forest, Villa, Brentford, Newcastle, United, Everton, and Wolves, and had draws in there against Liverpool, Bournemouth, Arsenal, and City. That's a really poor run. And they were in the bottom half for the first 16 weeks of the season. But since Christmas, they've only lost 3 times. Liverpool hammered them. Wolves beat them in the next game. And the only other game they've lost was the Arsenal game. Now, they quit against Liverpool and they quit against Arsenal. But they've only lost 3 games in the league since Christmas, which is pretty good. Now, there's some draws in there like Brentford and Burnley and Sheffield United where you still see the flaws.
Cup final embarrassment as well.
The cup final against Liverpool's, such a broken Liverpool team with kids everywhere. Really, really poor. But getting to the final was pretty good. Easy enough run. Wimbledon, Brighton, Blackburn, 2 non-penalties in Borough. But they got to a final. They got to a semi-final of an FA Cup as well. So they've had a much better second half to the season. They are moving in the right direction. I think 5th would be a false impression, but I think if they finish, even 6th or 7th, it's about where you would have expected them to be earlier in the season, not at the start. I think at the start of the season, a lot of people kind of had them, well, probably 5th, pushing for 4th. But before Christmas, people thought they were going to finish 16th. So they've kind of balanced themselves out. There's a lot of talent there, but it's also a sign of how poor the league actually is. If we're really honest here and we look at that league, right? City have lost 3, Liverpool lost 4, Arsenal lost 5. Villa lost 9. Everyone else lost 11 or more. And Chelsea are the team that have lost 11. Everyone else lost more. Spurs lost 12. Newcastle and United, 14. West Ham and Brighton, 13. Bournemouth and Palace, 15. Everton, 15. Wolves and Fulham, 17. Brentford, 18. Forest, 20. Luton and Burnley, 23. And then Sheffield United, 27. That's a lot of teams doing a lot of losing. And I think it's more a sign. And the other major factor for me, the other major identifier for me is just how poor the entire league is defensively. You've got Arsenal on 28, City on 33 goals conceded. And then nobody else conceding less than a goal a game. Liverpool are on 41. They're 3rd. Everton are 4th on 49. Everton, they're 15th. And everyone else is conceding in the 60s, bar Villa, who are on 56, and United on 58. Everyone else is in the 60s.
Yeah, defence has just been... Liverpool there, the 13-14 team, which had the worst defence in title-challenging history, conceded 50. And the Liverpool team this season, not that far off. That's considering the players Liverpool have,
that's terrible.
That's terrible.
That's terrible. You look back at the year City won it in 18-19. Liverpool conceded 22 goals. 22. And City conceded 23. The year before that, when City won it, 27. United 28 in second place. The year before that, when Chelsea won it, Tottenham finished second with 26. 1920, Liverpool conceded 33, but they had the league wrapped up months and months and months before and conceded a bunch of silly goals late in the season. But that was the season.
Multiple games drunk as well.
Yeah, but you look at that season, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Only 6 teams in the league conceded 60 or more goals. This year, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Crystal Palace are on 58. They could get to 60. United are on 58. They could get to 60. Like, that's atrocious. Last season, there was a bunch of, wasn't that many teams over 60. Tottenham were the highest team, were the only team in the top half who conceded over 60. Like, you had Chelsea sitting in 12th with 47 conceded. So Tottenham, Bournemouth, Forest, and the bottom three. So 6 teams with 60 or more conceded last year. 21-22, Liverpool and City, the top 2, both conceded 26 goals. Like, defensively, it's just atrocious this year. So I think the league is quite weak, which I think is why Chelsea have been able to sneak up. But credit to them, they're winning their games. That's all you can really ask at this point in the season. They'll head into this one with no Fofana, no Lavia, no Enzo, no Mudryk, no Reece James, who's suspended, no Robert Sanchez, who's got whatever's wrong with him, and Carney Chukwuemeka is a possibility to be back for this one. Bournemouth, who I think they've had a great season, no Fredericks, no Sinistera, Meffam is unlikely, but Kirkes and Favour should be okay. I think if they could get top half, now I don't think they will because they've got Brighton beating United, but I still think 11th is a really good outcome. If they could get anything from this game and get to 49 points, I think that's a really good return for them. Even 48 is great. It's their best Premier League performance. So, you have to give huge credit to Iraola on how well they've done. I actually think Chelsea will win this game. It's at home, just to round things out. I think they will win the game and secure 6th. So I'll go Chelsea 2-1.
Yep, I'd probably agree with that. Now we have underdogs Aston Villa going to the best team in existence, Crystal Palace. What a weird... I mean, Villa, congratulations, great season for them, but Crystal Palace, I know they're probably going to get picked apart in the summer, or at least a few of the players will. But if they do keep them, next season's going to be wild.
I hope more than anything, even for my own club, I hope they're able to keep that team together and add to it. Because the potential of that Palace team, it's potentially the best Palace team ever. Genuinely ever. Like, Mark Guehi and Joachim Andersen are 2/3 of what could be an excellent back three. If you add a third centre-back to go with them, let's say they went and brought in Evan and Dicka, who Glasner's worked with before and has a good relationship with. That's all of a sudden a really strong back three. You've got then Chris Richards can play all across that back line as depth. You probably want to add one more for depth.
Well, Rob Holding could probably play too, centre role.
He could play the middle role for sure. Yeah, he could play the middle role for sure. And look, I mean, Klein can fill in there, Ward they're not great. Mitchell could play in a back three if he got stuck. But I'd like to, and Lerma can play there. Not great, but he can play there. But I'd like to see them add one more, a starter and then one backup. They've got good goalkeepers in Henderson and Johnston. You've got Munoz at right wing back. You've got Mitchell at left wing back. That's strong. It's solid. They're going to have Doucouré back. So Doucouré and Wharton in the middle of the park is really, really strong.
And Lerma and Hughes is backup.
Lerma, Hughes, and Ahamada. Like, that's a 5-man group that's really, really good. They're going to lose probably Riedewald this summer. They'll probably lose Jeffrey Schlupp as well. Schlupp, I think they might try and keep because he can play in the middle, he can play in the front three, or he can play left wing back. So they might try and keep him.
And it has one worldie a season, which
always, every single year he scores an unbelievable goal. But they don't need to do anything in midfield unless he leaves. Then they'd need to add a backup. And maybe they want to buy a backup that could play both sides. That might work for them. And then in attack, you've got Elise, who's just I mean, the one conflict I have here is I really want Liverpool to nab him because I just think I think he's going to be absolutely incredible. But you've got him, you've got Eberechi Eze, you've got Matthias Franke, you've got Jordan Ayew for those two roles behind the striker. If Schlupp stays, he can also play there. Up front, Mateta's in the form of his life. And you've got Edouard. I'd probably look to move Edouard on and maybe bring
Eddie Nketiah.
Yeah, someone like that. Like, I wouldn't overpay for him, but someone who's just a penalty box threat. They've also got a couple of exciting youngsters to keep an eye on for next season. So Malcolm Abue came through it. I think he was at Arsenal and went to Derby.
Yeah.
Huge talent. Keep an eye out for him. Luke Plange, another highly rated young player that they got from Derby. He's another one. Teo Adoramola, who's a left back, best suited actually as a wing back. He might be the backup to Mitchell next year if Schlupp goes.
They're always linked with that Peterborough lad you like,
Ronnie Edwards. Yeah, Ronnie Edwards in a back three makes a lot of sense. Now, if he started right side and Guehi started left side, it would work, but you wouldn't have that left footer, so I don't know. But I'd bring him in anyway as depth. Because like League One to the Premier League is a big jump, so I don't think he's coming in as an automatic starter. But like, I look at them, if they went to the Championship and bought Jacob Greaves from Hull, went to League One and bought Ronnie Edwards, now you've got a really strong centre-back group. You've got a really strong midfield group. If Adaramola comes back, your left wing-back situation is sorted. Your right wing-back situation will be fine. I'd be looking at one striker on top of those two boys from the lower leagues. And that would be it if I could keep everybody else. But I'm really, really hoping that we get to see Doucouré and Wharton as a pairing next year, because I think that's going to be excellent. And I think they're going to be really good as well. I think this is a really good manager. I said it when they hired him. I called him as an option for a couple of clubs, and no one listened. I don't know why Bayern Munich... Like, Bayern, you had 6 months to sign him when he was at home. You knew you were going to get rid of Tuchel. You knew. So why didn't you approach him and say, look, Tuchel's going. If you're ready to come in now, we'll get rid of him now. If you want to sit until the end of the season, we'll sign you to a contract now coming in the summer, and then we're set. Like, he'd be so much better than the nonsense Bayern are going around trying to sort out at the moment. He's been there. He's only taken charge of 12 games, but 6 wins, 3 draws, and 3 defeats. And if I'm not mistaken, those 3 defeats all came real early. Tottenham away, fair enough. Bournemouth away, fair enough. And City at home. I don't think anybody would be upset at Palace losing those games. His draws, Luton home, disappointing. Forest away, that's a pretty good point. Fulham away, that's a pretty good point. They've beaten Burnley. They've beaten Liverpool away. They've beaten West Ham heavily. They've beaten Newcastle. They hammered United. And then they went to Wolves and won pretty comfortably. He's done a brilliant job. And I'm really excited to see what he can do there if the players stay. And give him 1 season and let's just see what Crystal Palace are capable of. Because, I think that's a top half team if they add, let's say, Edwards, Greaves, and that one forward. If everybody else stays, I think that's a top half team. I think it's a top half team quite comfortably.
Yeah. No, I'd agree with that. And even if, when they do spend money, they seem to spend it well as well. They'll just find championship lads. If they do lose, probably Elise, because he has the release clause apparently, they'll replace him well.
100% they will. Let's say they sell Michael Elise this summer, right? And I think the buyout is 60, 65 million. If I'm them, I'm going to PSV Eindhoven and I'm doing a deal for Johan Bakayoko. Stylistically very similar. Gets goals, creates goals, will play that position perfectly, same kind of left foot. I think he's an ideal fit. And you probably make a 25 million profit, which will get you Jacob Greaves and Ronnie Edwards. So then your only outgoing is going to need to be on one forward. And Edouard going would fund, you'd probably get 10 million for Edouard on the continent. So realistically, what are Arsenal going to get for Nketiah? 20, 25 max? It's a 15 million net spend. And even at that, if they do lose Elise and bring in back Yoko, I still think it's a top half team.
Yeah. I mean, Bayern could stump up 100 mil to speak to him, to speak to Glasner.
That's brilliant. I love that from Palace, though.
Yeah.
Love it. You're a bigger club. You're not going to bully us. You're not going to take our manager. We've hired him. We were smart enough and brave enough to make the move. He sat at home for 6 months and you did nothing about it. We went and got him. And look, we took the shit for it because of the whole situation around Hodgson. So, we're sticking with him. And if you want him, this is the price.
Absolutely. Let's move on because we did.
Did I pick a winner for that one?
Well, we just all assumed it's Crystal Palace because who's beating that to?
Yeah, I'm actually picking Palace to beat Villa in this one. Now, Villa, no Kamara, no Buendia, no Mings, no Ramsey. Moreno's a doubt. No Rodgers, no Cash, no Zaniolo. It's a lot of players out. Palace, no Johnston, no Holding, no Doucouré, no Franca, no Ahamada, who's suspended. Lerma's a doubt, and Will Hughes is a doubt, which would be a big blow. If Lerma and Hughes are both out, that's troublesome, just because Ahamada is suspended. You really need one of them fit to partner Wharton. But hopefully Lerma's okay. I'm going to pick them to win. I'm going to pick Palace to win that game. Villa have nothing to play for. Villa are in.
Oh, yeah, they'll be drunk.
So they'll be drunk. So I'm going to pick Palace to win 3-1.
Liverpool v Wolves on TV because of what's happening after the game, more so than anything. That's on Sky. The Chelsea game's on Sky as well. I should have mentioned that earlier. I suppose the result doesn't matter here, Dave. Obviously, it'd be nice for Liverpool fans and Klopp to win. But Wolves have kind of finished the season terribly, as have Liverpool. But this is good. This is simply on TV because of the stuff after the game, obviously.
Yeah, because otherwise there'd be absolutely no reason to watch this game other than the fact that Jurgen is leaving. So it'll annoy a lot of people. It'll annoy all the right people. So that's nice. Neither side has anything to play for. Like you said, Wolves, they've been really poor. They've lost 4 of their last 5. They could get a win and a Palace draw or defeat, and they could get above Palace and get 12th. A defeat and a Fulham win, they could end up in 14th. But does it really matter? I mean, I know there's a couple of million here and there for the prize money, but it doesn't really make a huge amount of difference. One thing that's interesting, though, last season, Gary O'Neill was at Bournemouth, and Bournemouth lost all 4 games in May. And they'd done enough to stay up, but once they were safe, they just collapsed in quite funny fashion. And then this season, they've lost both games in May so far.
Oh, God, he's Roy Hodgson.
Yeah, do you know what I mean? Like, they've won 1 game since the 9th of March. On the 9th of March, they beat Fulham. That was off the back of a heavy defeat away to Newcastle. And since then, they've played 9 games and won 1 with 2 draws and 6 defeats. Gary O'Neill just seems to give up and go on his holidays once kind of safety is assured. They've got Neto back, which is big for them, just to get him back. Might be his last game. You never know. He might move on this summer. No Dawson and no Chiwane, but Neto and Sarabia are okay. The only Liverpool player definitely out is Joel Matip. Thiago is back in training, as is Andy Robertson, as is Diogo Jota. Don't know how fit they are. I'd love to see Thiago just get 30 seconds. I just want to see him kick a ball again. That's literally it. We did scout it just before this. I picked a 3-2 Liverpool win. I'm going to stick with that. I think Liverpool win and send Klopp off with one final win in his tenure at Liverpool. It's crazy that it's come to an end. It's been so long that he's been at the club. Like, he joined in 2015. He's by far and away the longest serving manager in the Premier League. Like, if you look at, actually not by far and away, because Pep arrived the following summer.
Mm-hmm.
So Pep is there 8 years, Arteta 4.5, Klopp the better part of 9, Emery less than 2, Ange 1, Poch 1, 2.5, 2 and 2/3 for Eddie Howe, 2 for Ten Hag. Moyes is there 4 years? Yeah, 4 years at West Ham. 4.5 maybe. De Zerbi's less than 2 years. Iraola a year. Glasner 4 months, 3 months. O'Neill a year. Marco Silva, I think, is 3 years now. Year in the Championship, 2 in the Premier League. Dyche is a year and a half. Thomas Frank is probably the second longest, isn't he? When did Thomas Frank take over at Brentford? 2018. So yeah, Thomas Frank is the second longest serving manager in the league. Because obviously Nuno's not there long. Rob Edwards is not even 2 years, a year and a half or so. Company is 2 years, and Chris Wilder's 6 months. It's crazy. Like, Klopp is, along with Pep, the only one that's done, more than 6 years, and now he's going. So it's Pep, and then a big gap to Thomas Frank, and then you're looking at like Arteta as the next longest serving, because obviously Moyes is going as well.
Yeah, even
Arteta's actually the
Frank's
third.
linked with moves.
Who?
Frank's linked with moves as well, isn't he?
To United, yeah.
Mm.
So if he left and went there, Mikel Arteta will be the second longest tenured manager in the Premier League.
Mm.
And it's just a strange thing. But I do think Liverpool will wrap up with a win.
Hopefully so. Next up, Luton hosting Fulham. Fulham been on the beach a little while now anyway. But Luton, as I said earlier, bar madness, they're down. But it'd be nice for them, because out of the 3 promoted clubs, I know Burnley had this spell towards the end of the season. And there is probably an argument, if Luton didn't get absolutely destroyed by injuries, they may have stayed up, just with Forest being so bad. But yeah, it'd be nice if Luton got a win and then take that in the next season, because they have been the one promoted side that nearly stayed up.
Yeah, and I give them credit because they came up with a very clear plan, which was, look, we're going to build a championship team. We're going to have a go, but if we go down, we're going to be in a good position to come back up. And they did give it a go, and they really did. No Lockyer, no Kabore, no Nakamba, no Brown, no Bell, no Potts. I think he's missed the entire season. Ross Barkley's a doubt, which is a shame because he's had a really good season. And Mads Anderson is out. They have been hammered by injuries, and they had such a small squad, so injuries hit them even more. For Fulham, no Issa Diop, he's suspended, and Sasa Lukic is likely to miss out with an injury. Luton are 19th in the form table. Fulham are 60th, so not great themselves. Luton's home form is 18th, not great. And Fulham's away form is actually 6th. But Fulham have been, like, Fulham, they got safe and that was it. They didn't need anything else. So no wins in the last 4, but I actually think they're going to win this one. I'm going to back Fulham to win 2-1.
Yep, can see that. I'll do the Sheffield United Spurs game before we do the City game because
Yeah.
we'll finish with the title picture. I mean, Spurs is a weird place at the minute, but they still should still beat Sheffield United.
They should. They've ended the season, obviously, in very, very poor form. And there's a big internal review, I believe, to take place now, given what Postecoglou had to say. I think they're going to try and start weeding out some of the weaker mentality within the club. Within the fan base, not much they can do, but within the club, there's definitely changes that can be made. Look, it's still a season of progress. Last season, Tottenham finished 8th. This season, they're going to finish 5th. That's progress. Last season, they got 60 points. This season, I think they're going to get 66. That's progress. Is it good enough? No. No, it's not. They've still got a lot of work to do. But realistically, 5th would be their second highest finish since the 18-19 season, where they finished 4th. They finished 4th, obviously, under Conte. But 1920, they were 6th with 59 points. The following season, they were 7th with 62. Then Conte got them 4th with 71. Last season, like I say, 8th with 60. So I'm just moving them in the right direction. I think he comes in for a lot of stick because he's a bit too dogmatic at times. But year one with Ange is always about indoctrination of the players into his way of playing. And year 2 is where you start to see him tweak things. So I think we'll see a better Spurs next season. I think they'll buy in the summer. I think they're desperately in need of a 9, so Son can go and play wide again. I think Ivan Toney's back in play there. They need to sort out some issues defensively for sure. But then so does the entire league, Arsenal and City.
Yeah.
Literally, and Everton, to be fair, because 49 conceded for Everton is quite good. But the rest of the league is garbage defensively. Sheffield United are the worst team I've ever seen defensively. Like, they're the worst team in Premier League history defensively, but they're the worst team I've ever seen from a defensive point of view. 101 goals conceded. That's a Premier League record, no matter how many games you play. It's obviously the record for 38 games played, and it's to be added to this weekend because Spurs are scoring this weekend. A point is really all Spurs need to be guaranteed a 5th, but I do think they'll go there and win. If we look at the injuries quickly, Tottenham, no Adoiji, no Foster, no Sessegnon, no Werner, no Solomon, no Davies, no Richarlison, no Basuma, but Giovanni Lo Celso should be okay. Like, they've had a lot of injuries themselves this year that people kind of overlook. Sheffield United, they've been decimated. Max Lowe, Norrington Davies, McBurney, Basham, Egan, Ahmed Hodzic, Holgate, Osborne. They're all out. Brooks could be okay. Arblaster could be okay. Jebison, Baldock, and Davies are all out. They've announced this week that Basham, Baldock, and I think Ollie Norwood will all leave the club when their contracts expire.
I think Max Lowe's out of contract as well,
I think
isn't he?
Max Lowe is out of contract. I think he's on that list to leave as well. I would have been keeping him. But I suppose with Norrington Davies due to come back, they're probably happy enough. But he's missed basically the full season with hamstring injuries. That's really tough to overcome. Horrible season for them. Horrible season. On the plus side, it's over. It's over. So they can just put it behind them and start to regroup. I'd be moving on from Chris Wilder if I was them, but that remains to be seen. I think they go out here on the back of a heavy defeat. I'm going to go 4-1 to Spurs.
Get Heckingbottom back. He'll get him promoted again.
Yeah.
Then Chris Wilder back in December.
And then sack him in the summer and bring in a good manager.
Yeah.
Not Chris Wilder. 4-1 to Spurs.
Yeah. Lastly, then, the title, probably the more important one, because we all presume Arsenal will win. City do win these games usually, but the last one against Villa was a bit mental.
Yeah.
And they don't have Ilkay Gundogan this time. So
No, but
Gvardiol will score 2 goals.
yeah, that's it. They've got Gvardiol, they've got Rodri. Like, the thing with this City team is there's always someone that steps up. There's always someone that steps up. They go into this game with KDB a doubt, but he should be okay. No Ederson, though. He's got a fractured eye socket. So that's a blow, but Ortega's been excellent.
Yeah.
West Ham have no Calvin Phillips, and I would doubt Agard or Mavropanos play, which means Ogbena next to Zuma, which is problematic up against Erling Haaland. City are the best team in the league in whatever metric you want. They're top of the form table as well, 8 wins and 2 draws in their last 10. West Ham are 13th, 2 wins, 4 draws, 4 defeats. City's home form is second only to Chelsea, but that's on goal difference, 5 wins and a draw, same as Chelsea. They've got a better goals conceded than Chelsea, but Chelsea beat Everton heavily, which is what puts them over the top. Away form, West Ham are 13th, 1 win, 2 draws, 3 defeats. West Ham have had a weird year, and I think the Moyes situation spilled over into the dressing room. I think that's basically what's happened there. You look at their recent league form. They've won 2 games since beating Everton on the 2nd of March. They beat Wolves away and they beat Luton at home. And they were very, very fortunate to beat Wolves away. They've lost 3 of the last 4. They've lost 3 of their last 4 away games. They've been heavily beaten a number of times this season. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 10 defeats by 2 or more goals. It's not good. That's not good. 10 defeats by 2 or more goals. That's really bad. It's a really bad sign as well going to City. They've lost 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 away games this season. I don't expect much from them. They concede a lot of goals away from home, 43 this year. They have scored a decent amount away, 28. They've won 7, only drawn 2. So if Arsenal fans were banking on a draw, I'm afraid this is the wrong team to bank on a draw with. I think they're going to get just absolutely decimated, to be honest. They looked so bad against Chelsea. Like, so bad. Their last 2 away games, by the way, a 5-0 defeat away to Chelsea and a 5-2 away defeat away to Crystal Palace.
Oof.
So I wouldn't be holding your breath, Arsenal fans. I think City are going to win this quite comfortably. I'm going to go 4-1, 5-1, 5-1. I'll go 5-1. I think they win it emphatically. I think City they didn't look good against Spurs. But prior to that, they just had this aura about them that you just don't see very often. Like, they hammered Villa. They went and beat Palace comfortably. Rough first half, but then beat them comfortably. Hammered Luton. Went to Brighton and hammered them. Coasted past Forest. Hammered Wolves. Hammered Fulham. Like, they seem unstoppable at the moment. This team hasn't lost in the league since the 6th of December. They've lost 3 games all year. All of them were away from home. And most importantly, all of them were without Rodri. They've only drawn 4 games since that defeat to Villa. Palace, Chelsea, Liverpool, and Arsenal when Arsenal parked the bus. Now, 3 of them were at home, and they've actually drawn 5 games at home this season, which isn't great for them, but they're unbeaten at home this year. And I think that stays, and I don't think West Ham are good enough to go there and cause them much trouble at all. West Ham just want the season to be over. I think City are going to win this title in pretty comprehensive fashion. And that's 4 in a row. So I'm going to go 5-1.
And that's another boringly predictable end to the season, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's it. That's another season where a team that has a massive asterisk next to their name are going to end up champions. But like I've said this before, you can't get to 90 points plus. You're not winning the league against them. It's just that simple. And Arsenal, look, they've had a really, really good back half of the season. I've been very, very impressed by how well they've handled this run-in, which was very, very difficult. They had by far the hardest run-in to end the season. But the bottom line of it is, you went to City and parked the bus when you had an advantage on them. And then you lost at home to Villa. And that's the simple fact of it. Like, you got very fortunate at Anfield. That should have been a defeat, which would have been 3 defeats in a row at that point. You just dropped too many points in the first half of the season. Like, you dropped points at home to Fulham. You lost away to Newcastle. You lost away to Villa. The draw at Anfield is fine. The draw against Tottenham is fine. The draw against Chelsea is fine. But you lost at home to West Ham. And you lost away to Fulham. And ultimately, that's what kills you. You've dropped points in 10 games this year. You've got 5 defeats. City just won't. They're not going to let you away with that. They have mastered how to win this league. Only one person before had mastered how to win it, and that was Ferguson. And Pep has done that as well. And we see with this City team now how they just pace themselves. And when they need to string together a run of wins, it just comes like that. It's like an automatic thing, whether it's in the middle of the season or at the end of the season. If they feel like you're potentially getting away from them, they just turn it up. They win 6, 8, 12 games in a row, and they win the league. And ultimately, they've been the best team. Arsenal's best run this season was 8 wins in a row. They beat Palace, Forest, Liverpool, West Ham, Burnley, Newcastle, Sheffield United and Brentford. There's one good team in there. But you won 8 in a row, and that's commendable. But City are about to end the league title, at the end of the season, winning 9 in a row. They've beaten Villa in there. They've beaten Spurs in there. Do you know? They're just the best team in the league. It just is what it is. So congrats to them. And that's it. That is us. We'll be back on Monday. Thank you as always for listening. As you would have heard at the start of the show, today's episode was sponsored by Skybet. And as always, I do ask that if you're engaging with betting, you are over the age of 18 and that you do gamble responsibly. If you want to learn more about gambling, or if you're struggling with a gambling addiction, do check out begambleaware.org, where you can get all that information. Thanks as always to you. Thanks to Skybet and thanks to Guy. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Sports Social Podcast Network.